You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves 4-game win streak snapped in Cleveland today after a terrible, just a pathetic defensive effort by the Wolves. 146-134. That's your final. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks to you guys, the number one sports podcast network. Got Jack Borman with me, a Wolves expert, NBA expert. Give him a follow on X at JRBorman13. Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. And of course, follow our guy Ben Beacon as well, host of the Locked On Timberwolves show each and every day. Lots to get into, Jack. Game MVP, biggest X factor, plus what we'll be talking about tomorrow. Big, juicy matchup with the Spurs tomorrow night, 6 p.m. tip. But just off the top here, Wolves continue this, again, long stretch against the Eastern Conference. Feel like I've said that like 9 games in a row, but 10 of the last 11 against the East. Game 2, we got the rematch with Cleveland, who they beat up Wednesday night. Definitely a different vibe to this one, though, Jack, with, in Cleveland this time. Starters balled out last game. I know you're going to get into it. Wolves had, 4 guys, I want to say, with 22 points or more. Today just felt like very much the opposite. Julius, Jaden McDaniels, both those guys struggle. And then defensively, man, this game was just a mess top to bottom from start to finish. It felt like rough outing today. They do drop to 25-14 on the year. Give me your top 2 or 3 just kind of biggest takeaways that really stuck out the most as you watch this one unfold.
Yeah, for sure. It was the worst defensive game of the season for the Wolves by both defensive rating and points allowed, at least in regulation. 5 of Cleveland's top 6 guys in the rotation scored 20 points or more. The one guy who didn't, Jared Allen, scored 16 on 10 shots, was pretty impactful. The Wolves got killed in the paint in this game. It was 62-48 when the bench is emptied. The Wolves allowed 51 shots in the paint. I did not have time to check if that's the most they've allowed in a game this season, but it would not shock me whatsoever, considering that the Cavs still only made 31 of those shots. So Wolves perimeter defense was really bad in this game. I mean, just looking at the second half alone, Cleveland had an offensive rating of nearly 160 points, and they gave up. What did the Wolves give up? They gave up 83 points in the second half. Cleveland was 10 of 16 from 3, and they shot 73% from 2. And I think just another kind of one of those games where, the Timberwolves didn't try to really make any defensive adjustments soon enough, right? I mean, they went to a zone late in the fourth quarter, kind of once the game was already over. Just let, guys at the point of attack, namely Jaden McDaniels and Jalen Clark, didn't do enough to fight over screens and just allowed Garland and Mitchell to kind of waltz into the paint and do whatever they want, which was a bummer. And then the defense overcommitted quite a bit, got into rotation, and guys attacked really nicely off the catch from all over the place. And I think just kind of another night where day, I guess, where it's frustrating that we don't see any Berenger minutes in kind of the flow of the game instead of late, just because I think, again, the Randall and Reed, no Rudy lineups have largely been really bad defensively. They've been winning with offense more than, competent defense of late. But today they gave up 48 points in 14 minutes, defensive rating of 160. That's awful. And I mean, look, the defense wasn't great with Rudy on the floor either. It was still 137, but that's still a 23-point, differential. And I just like to see them go and play huge, especially in a game like this where, Jalen Clark is continuing to struggle fighting over screens and then kind of being a little bit reactive to guys like Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland. And again, just try it. We haven't seen him try it. And Berenger has been really good in the G League. He's been really good in the minutes that he's played on the floor at the end of these games for the Timberwolves. And again, I mean, he's also been really productive offensively too, right? Really aggressive roller, has great hands, has finished really well inside. So just kind of a frustrating, I think we've talked about it a couple of different times over the last few weeks of just like, what does Chris Finch have to lose playing Berenger? And this was another game where the Timberwolves had absolutely nothing to lose with how bad their defense was, and there still weren't any adjustments. But yeah, I mean, the starters got absolutely worked in this game. They got blown out 110-80. And the Cavs starters shot 61% from the floor, 45.5% from 3, and they scored 54 points in the paint by themselves, which is good enough to outscore the Wolves, entire team before the benches got emptied. And like I said, Jaden McDaniels is in foul trouble, so we saw more of Jalen Clark in this game. And, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell shot a combined 5 of 7 when they were matched up on him. And then when Jaden did play, he was pretty unproductive, right? The big three for Cleveland, Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, made all 5 of their shots when Jaden was the primary defender. And he wasn't really a factor offensively either. And the Timberwolves really need that, especially, we talked the other night about what the Timberwolves record is when Jaden and Dante both, combined for at least 30 points. They had 27 tonight after 48 the other night. So that was just a bummer. And I think, for Jalen Clark specifically, the great thing about Jalen's defense is, he's never going to struggle because of a lack of effort. And that's certainly a problem for some other guys on the team. And so that's why Chris Finch has been giving Jalen some rope to try to, work out, getting at least more experience guarding all these guys so we can learn from it, which I have no problem with whatsoever. But it's just offensively, I think they need to find a little bit different way to use Jalen on this game. They were playing Evan Mobley in kind of that spy Rudy role that we've seen the Timberwolves play, kind of cratered the Wolves spacing in a lot of those lineups. And for Jalen, being unable to consistently knock down threes or finish inside, I'd like to see them, at least try to activate Jalen a little bit more in the handoff game, or have him come set screens in the middle of the floor just to make defenses throw a little bit of a different look at the Timberwolves so that, the spacing is a little bit better. But the other one for me, just I thought that the offensive approach was different to start this game. The Wolves did a lot of switch hunting. The Cavs started Sam Merrill instead of Craig Porter Jr. in this game and had Mitchell guarding Ant early. They just kind of took their pick of which of the 3 guys they wanted to attack on nearly every possession, mixed in some really nice DHO and pick and roll game with Gobert, hit him in the pocket a few times, and then, got a really good looks and had a really high assist rate, north of 70% in the first half, at 18 assists on 25 field goals made, and then just totally devolved into ISO ball in the second half, which was just kind of frustrating to watch, especially with Julius Randle. I thought kind of dribbled the air out of the basketball a little too much, took guys out of the flow, and then I think the Wolves offense taking too many one or no pass possessions, quick shots, just allowed the Cavs to just really get in a rhythm offensively, playing quickly and in transition and semi-transition. So just an overall really disappointing game for the Timberwolves today.
You mentioned, just real quick, the frustration with Baron J. You're in the media circles. We can't be the only one frustrated with that. Is anybody ever asked Coach Finch, or has Finch maybe came out earlier in the year and kind of talked about what the blueprint was going to be with this young kid, or kind of the game plan, so to speak? Because again, we can't be the only ones thinking this, in games like this, where it would be nice to see him out on the floor a little bit.
Yeah, I certainly thought that, at least from things I've heard, he's certainly higher on Baron J than Rob Dillingham in terms of, what he's done. I think, he said the other night that he's been doing his homework and getting good grades in terms of going down to Iowa and the minutes that he's played at the end of games. But I certainly don't think that it's not like a rookie starting quarterback where it's like, we're absolutely not going to play this guy under any circumstances. I certainly think that the Wolves are, open to it. I just think that, with continuity being what it was coming into the season, I think, Chris Finch kind of wanted to give his guys 30, 40 games to see, what kind of changes need to be made. And this was the 39th game of the year. So the Wolves are kind of at that point now where they've run out of, leash to at least check on some of those things. So
let's get into our player of the game, hand a little love.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
So again, last game, 4 players with 22 points or more. I think you said on the last postcast, the starters combined for like 107 points. Today, though, again, starters pretty mid, Jaden, Julius, etc. Just bring the heat. So who are you going to go with here today? Today's player of the game for the Wolves, who was it and why?
Yeah, rare for us to do this on a game that they lose, but I just think that we really need to highlight just how tremendous Anthony Edwards has been. I mean, the biggest factor holding Anthony Edwards back from really being mentioned in the upper echelon of superstars in the NBA, the exclusive top 3, 4, 5 guys that are mentioned in the MVP conversation, was just his consistency, right? And I think you would too often have games where he just wasn't enough of a factor, but that has just not been the case whatsoever for Ant. I mean, if you just go look at his game logs and look at the type of effort he's been bringing, especially as a scorer, and the way that he's kept the Timberwolves in a lot of these games when the energy hasn't been there. I thought tonight was another shining example of that. I mean, you want to factor in what he did the other night against Cleveland at Target Center. I mean, it was just a totally comprehensive dominance from Ant. Even though he only scored 25 points, he layered in 9 assists, 7 rebounds, made a bunch of good plays defensively, walled up guys on drives. And it was a lot of the same thing for Ant today. I loved the way that Cleveland gets on a 12-0 run, build a little bit of a lead in that third quarter. The Wolves totally could have rolled over if Anthony Edwards wanted to roll over. And he dug his heels in and fought, came downhill, 3 straight scores after really struggling inside the arc in the first half, had 14 points in that third quarter to keep the Wolves in the game. And look, you'd like to see him shoot better than 6 of 15 from 2, but probably should have had a few more than 2 free throw attempts. Maybe, 4 or 6 attempts, something like that. You could probably nitpick and go look at a couple plays where he might have gotten fouled. But then defensively, I mean, he held Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell in the game, and in the shots that they were matched up together, 2 of 8 from the floor. Thought he had some really, really good help side rim protection rotations, had 2 blocks in this game, and thought he had some really nice rebounds in traffic. And again, I just think for Ant, he's finding more and more ways every single night to impact the game. And, you might look at his stat line tonight and not be wholly impressed. But I just thought that, again, the way that Ant just comes in and competes every single night, it has just been a joy to see. And I think despite the Wolves not playing well, I think just kind of helps you sleep easy at night knowing that the Timberwolves have, one of the most dynamic athletes in the league, who is also one of, the most dynamic 3-point shooter in the league, not named Steph Curry. And what that unlocks for you is pretty special. So I think, despite most of the team not playing well today, I think Ant playing at the level that he has been super impressive.
Well said there. Plenty more deep dive. Biggest X factor from today, plus what we'll be talking about tomorrow. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Monarch Money. You ever go check your bank account and go, where'd my money go? Dining out, online shopping, entertainment. Very easy to lose track, isn't it? Well, that's where Monarch Money comes in. Not just another budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, your spending. It's all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and instead you start building some wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. You're getting 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA. Getting half off your entire first year. This episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Without a doubt, most fun I have playing daily fantasy. You can win up to 25 times your money this NBA season, and why I love it. It's just so easy to play. All you got to do, you select 2 or more players. You pick more or less on their projected stats. Again, could be points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers, you name it, they got it. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Right now, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Jack, before we get into what we'll be talking about, let's rip into our biggest X factor from today.
It's time to reveal who made the biggest under-the-radar impact with today's X Factor.
Let me tee you up with this. Talk me into Bones Highland being an X factor for this team. Like what he do well today, and then I guess, we've got more than enough sample size now, it feels like. So what's just the best way to kind of maximize this guy's skill set and I guess too, in turn, kind of minimize his limitations, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I think starting with minimizing his limitations, I think they've done a pretty good job in the lineups that he's played of trying to, insulate him with guys that can really defend. And he's played a good chunk of his minutes with Rudy Gobert out there at the start of second quarters. I think that's been part of the reason why you've seen Mike Conley play at the end of first quarters and Bones play at the start of second quarter, so that Mike is in that Randall and Reed kind of chunk, and then Bones is with Rudy to try to minimize some of that. And then I think that for him maximizing his skill set offensively, I think you just got to empower him with the ball in his hands, right? I think the great thing about Bones is that he fits really well with all of the Wolves bigs. And I think that he's a fit with Rudy Gobert because of how he can snake and pick and roll and score coming off screens, whether it's in the mid-range or from 3, and then, make nice kick out passes from there. But I also thought that he showed a really good chemistry with Julius Randle in the first quarter tonight. Kind of played more of a free-flowing pitch and catch 2-man game where both of them were getting to their spots and just being really unselfish with one another, which was fun to see. And then, obviously with Nas, Bones does a really good job of kind of throwing those skip passes to the opposite slot where Nas is, and just has a really good awareness and recognition of where Nas is at all times. And so I think for Bones, I mean, he had 7 assists in 20 minutes to just 1 turnover. I think people see Bones Highland and they think, just much more of a scorer than a playmaker. But I've been really impressed with his playmaking, and I think he certainly has been a net positive for the Timberwolves since entering the rotation about 20 games ago. And it was just part of what I thought was a really good bench game. The two of those guys came in at the start, in the first quarter, and then at the start of the fourth quarter, and were really impactful running together, Bones and Nas. I mean, the bench tonight won 58 to, 54 to 36. Nas had 25 of those 54, which was awesome to see. He made 5 of his 6 threes, had 2 blocks, which was nice. The Wolves bench was 11 of 18 from 2, 8 of 10 from 3. And they almost out-assisted the starters. I mean, the Wolves had 31 assists in this game. 15 of them came from the bench, which was great to see. And then in transition, the Wolves bench was phenomenal in transition. I mean, they had 10 points to the starters 5. And so I think the pace that those two guys played with was really important. And I think, again, we've also seen Bones be adaptable to kind of step into that, kind of an Ant facsimile role as a scorer when Ant was out, right? And I think his shooting unlocks his ability to do that, and then obviously can create his own shot off the dribble. So it's been fun to watch him grow. And I think that the Timberwolves are fortunate that he's been a kind of a bright spot for the majority of the minutes that he's been able to play off the bench.
Let's get into what we'll be talking about here. Actually, I'm sorry. I don't want to jump ahead. Any quick hitters? We should shout out Joe Ingles getting some first half run. Get a fingerprint on the game. That's always noteworthy. But any other noteworthy observations you got in the tank here before we move on?
Yeah, and I think Ingles deserves credit too for the way that he's been setting the table for Johan Berenger in those minutes that he's played in garbage time, which has been great. And I think the Wolves, having somebody that they can go to do that with is awesome. And then makes a corner 3 in the minutes that he played and had another nice assist, and was a little stiff defensively, but I think that's kind of what you'd imagine for a guy 38, 37 years old. And then I also thought that Dante DiVincenzo was kind of the first game where I thought he in a while, at least, where he really struggled defensively guarding, a player of a similar archetype in Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill was 5 of 6 from 3 in this game. I would venture to guess that he made 4 or 5 of those threes while matched up with DiVincenzo, who was just late on a lot of rotations and got caught with his hand down a couple times, which was unfortunate. So that was something too. And again, I thought the Wolves did a better job on the offensive glass. Only allowed 8 offensive rebounds in this game, especially with guys like Allen and Mobley, who are as aggressive as they are on defensive glass, on the offensive glass. So it's good that at least some of the effort stuff was there for the Wolves, but you just got to get in a stance and guard, and they didn't do a good enough job of that today.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, last 90 here. What we'll be talking about tomorrow. I'm just looking at the schedule. What a fun matchup on the docket tomorrow night. Wolves Spurs, that should be juicy. Check out the Spurs tonight for a little scouting report. They play the Celtics. That's at home. Then you got 4 in a row on the road, Jack, followed by 3 at home. But I guess just quick thoughts on tomorrow night, that matchup, and maybe the stretch coming up here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot for the Spurs, right? They're playing in Boston tonight against one of the league's top offenses, and then got to travel back west to play Minnesota tomorrow. So maybe a situation where Victor Wembanyama does not play, just with it being a little bit of an egregious back-to-back. But I think, you look at the standings right now. I mean, again, obviously a bummer that the Wolves couldn't get it done today, but that's a really good Cleveland team that's almost fully healthy now. And I don't think there's really a whole lot to hang your hat on, splitting a 2-game set with them. But you look at the Lakers have lost 2 in a row. The Rockets have lost 2 in a row. Denver is probably due to lose, a little bit more than what they have the last few games. And so the Wolves now are just, they're 2 games back of the Spurs. Could be a game and a half by the time they play tomorrow. And the Wolves could jump up to, being right in line with the Spurs and Nuggets right in that 2-3 line. And so I think the Wolves really do control their own destiny for wherever they want to be in the playoff picture. And then you look at the Timberwolves schedule upcoming, the fact that they've got some opportunities here to play Houston, which would be fun to see on ESPN on Friday night. Then second night of a back-to-back in San Antonio on Saturday. So I think just really good opportunity for the Timberwolves here to continue to climb up the schedule and prove against some of the top teams in the West that they can, if not be right on par with them, but also be better than them. And so they certainly have the horses to be able to do it. It's just a matter of whether they can consistently bring it every night. And I think the good news for the Timberwolves, I think today notwithstanding, I think their effort has been much better on both ends of the floor. So hopefully they can kind of put this one behind them like they did for that Hawks game and come right back with a really good performance tomorrow at home.
Yes, Josh, we will be locked on for tomorrow night, 6 p.m. tip with the Spurs. And I do agree as well, Jack, with the best everyday after game content for sure. Great stuff, man. Per usual, T-Wolves dropped the rematch with Cleveland in Cleveland today, 146-134, 25-14 now on the year, 11 games above 500. Much love to all you guys, all the everydayers out there. Always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat with us, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow Jack at JR Borman 13. And again, catch you back here tomorrow. Wolves Spurs back at the Target Center, 6 p.m. tip. Until then, thanks for watching. Talk to you next time. Signing out.